Hi, I'm Blake Pennington with Spot Imaging in this SprintPic imaging system, which I will be assembling for you today. Two things you need before you start. You'll need a work surface 3 feet wide, 2 feet deep, and roughly 4 feet high. The other thing you will need is a power source nearby, preferably a surge protector. To begin, place your base where you want it and remove the knob in the back. Adjustable camera stand that will slide right in the center, and then replace the knob in the center hole. Next are the light arms. On the bottom here is a fork. It goes on either side of the leg on the bottom. Snug it up to the back and tighten the knob down by hand. You do the same on the other side. These arms have a knob in the back. Loosen and adjust. Next is the light itself. These brackets here need to be assembled first. Slide over the bottom bracket, lined up. The knob on the bottom, tighten it into place. Once they're both on, just slides over the light arm, slides into the light arm, and tighten the knobs down by hand. And do the same with the other side. Tighten by hand. Next, put the camera mount on. The knob here will slide into the hole up here. And the knob on the left, tighten by hand. Now to adjust this, you rotate this knob here. You can adjust up and down. Once that's done, you move on to the camera. Camera with the lens control, and there's a bracket in the back with a threaded hole that will mount on the back side of the camera mount. Turn the knob until it's hand tight. And now the hardware is all assembled, we can start to add the power source and accessories. We'll start with the light control. On-off switches in the front, in the back, are your power cords, and the center. Attach the power cord. On either side of that, you'll attach each light. power source. Your lights will. Next, we can plug in the camera using the cord that's coming out of the lens control. We'll attach it to the lens control. Snaps in. On the front of this lens control box, or on the back of this lens control box, there's two plugs. The bottom one will be this white data cable. In, tighten the side screw. The second one will be the power supply for the lens control. Plug this into the top port. Plug your power supply. From here, your data cable will plug into this USB adapter. Screw it down. The other side of that adapter, the A to B USB cord that comes with it, plug into the other side, and that will plug into your USB hub. Also, into the USB hub will be the foot switch. With the other A to B USB cable, plug into the other side of the hub. And then the other end will plug into your computer. The last cable that you will have is the power supply for the USB hub. Plug that into the port. And plug that into your power supply. The last thing you need to do is plug the camera into the USB hub using this white cord. On the side of the camera here, there's a micro USB port. Plug that in there. And on the back here, there's a little hook. Cables in. And plug this into your USB hub. After that, cable management is up to you. Obviously, look a little better than this. That's it. That's the assembly. The SprintPic imaging system.
So now let's look at the Spot software. And so I've obviously started the software. And just to give you a sense of where things are, this is the capture button, or as we talked about before, we could use the foot pedal. And the foot pedal coincides with this setup right down here. So left and right is zoom out, zoom in, and in the middle is the capture. I can actually play around with the light and the darkness of this. And these two icons don't come into play when we're doing grossing because the grossing is not part of the microscope, right? So these two icons, this is white balance and this is the focus bar when you're using the software on microscopy like I talked about earlier, where we can use the same software whether we're on a microscope or if we're at a grossing station. So this obviously allows me to zoom out and to zoom in, okay? And then this button right here is very nice because this allows us to use what we call a magnifying glass. So the magnifying glass allows me to take it and run it over the specimen and look at it in more detail in the live mode before we take a picture and just say, okay, where are the areas that I want to focus on? Also, if we were in a teaching situation or we were maybe even at a tumor board, we can actually get rid of the user interface and pop the image out in live mode. We can do this live mode or in capture mode, but this is a very, very nice way to show how we can get rid of the interface, and which can be kind of distracting if you're trying to teach something. So now what I'm going to do is capture an image. And when I capture an image, if I've not put in the accession case number, then I need to do that. And I can do that in two ways. One is I could use a barcode scanner. And oftentimes, if you already have a scanner, we can use yours. And typically, an LIS system would come with a scanner. So we typically can use yours if you're going to send the images to an LIS. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and type a case in. And then I'm going to say OK. And so now you hear the sound of the camera, which tells us that the camera is active. And that can be turned on or off. You'll notice that the picture we just acquired shows up in the film strip to the right. And also what will show up in the film strip to the right is any other images that were associated with this case will also populate. And I preset an image to be there so I can show it to you in this session. So now what's going to happen is I'm going to click on the acquired image, and then over on the left-hand side, you're going to see all of the annotation tools populate. So I'm going to click on Captured Image. And as I said, all your annotation tools have now populated over to here. What I can now do is I can annotate, right? So what does that mean? That means that I can zoom in on this if I would like to do that. Once I start zooming in, I can actually pan. I've got a little panning window up here, which allows me to zoom around on the specimen. And let's just say I'm on this specimen, I want to do some sort of a grid for tissue mapping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a square up here, just like that. And then I can actually turn this into a grid, like that. And maybe I want to make this right here. Okay? And then let's just say I want these grids to be associated with the same naming culture as I might have for my cassettes. See that? Now the other cool thing I can do is I can add text. And I can add text in three ways. One is I can add text with preset words that are in the drop-down menu. I can add text by freehand additions. So watch this. So now I've got a text box. I'm going to say look here. And I'm going to say OK. And now I've got a text box right here that says look here. Now the third way that I can do this is I can actually go behind the scenes and add words that I use frequently. And when I add those words, they would appear in then the drop-down menu. So 3 different ways. Additionally, I could say, okay, I want an arrow. So if I have this saying, look here, so I might go like that, right there. And then I might actually want to say, okay, well, I want to move my text box closer to the arrow, right? The other nice feature is the freehand drawing, right? So I can say, okay, this is my area of interest here. You know, maybe I have a colon or something like that I'm trying to articulate, right? The other thing I can do is I can measure. So I click down here for the measurements. You'll notice this is very intuitive. So there I can measure like that. And let's just say I want to move this over. Oops, let's take the last one off. Sorry. If you don't click all the way down, you will end up with some duplication here. So we're just going to take that off there. See? I want you to see me do things like that because it's important for you to know that you're not hurting anything. You can remove things. You can fix things. It's not permanent once you do it. So there's no fear factor here. The interface is very easy to use. And I don't know if you've noticed, but any of the tools that are active will always have a red check mark. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Freehand Measuring. So I can actually go down here and I can go like this and like this and like this. And obviously now I have a measurement. So, and then I'm just going to move this down here. Also keeping in mind that any annotations are stored with the image on this image. So as we are taking pictures, we're also storing those images as we go. And the reason that's important is that if you ever had a power interruption or you had to reboot the computer, we all know that can happen, you will not lose the images that you've acquired in this case. You'll be able to go back where you were and you can continue. The other thing that's very nice about this is that if I were in the LIS system, okay, I would actually be able to, on this icon, I could select the images that I want to transfer into the LIS. So I said this earlier. For example, if I've taken 10 images, I want to send 3 to the LIS, I can transfer those over, and everything else can be transferred into a separate server or wherever you decided to store these in a file. Additionally, if you've noticed, well, let's go back to live mode. I want you to see something. So I'm going to go back to live. And I want you to notice that there's so right here you see it's Camtasia. This was specimen A, and 001. This is Camtasia specimen A002. Now I could have changed this to be specimen B, right? And if I wanted to do that, I could go over here and now say I want to add so what I've done is I am starting a new specimen, and it's B, right? So now I'm going to take this picture. You can hear the camera, and like I said, we can turn that off. See, it's still in the same case, and it's Camtasia B, specimen B, right? So now if I wanted to see A, I could do the drop down, and it would show me what the specimens look like in A, and I can just keep going. Specimen B, I could go C, D, you get the idea. So there's a session as you move through the entire episode of your specimen, okay? So let's go back to A, and what I want you to see is the level of detail we can get to on this brain. So this is a captured image. And watch what happens when I start zooming in with this. Look at the level of detail that you can see using this 20 megapixel camera and then increasing the level of zoom on the picture. So this was imported from another location. This is one of those pictures from Bern University. I imported it into this case just so that you could see it today. but I could now do annotations on this if that's what I chose to do. The one thing I will not be able to do, of course, is I won't be able to measure. And the reason I won't be able to do that is because I didn't acquire it with this camera. But all of the other tools will apply. So now let's go back to live mode. And let's go ahead and zoom in. I'm just going to repeat my steps so you can see how easy this is. I'm going to acquire. I'm going to hear the camera telling me it's active. And once the picture is taken and captured, it will populate here in the bottom. And then when I go to the captured image, that's when all my annotation tools show up. Now, the other thing that I can do is I can change my line size, I can change my font, and at any time I can change the color of the writing tools. Because why? Because you might have a specimen that with the red writing, it doesn't look good. You know, maybe we need to go to white for your specimen, right? So let's just for the sake of simplicity, let's go ahead and pick a see that? So you can change the color at will. You can change the direction of the lettering. So if I went like this, and now I said, okay, I want to put right in a different direction. And then the other thing I can do is I can turn this A1 on. And the reason I'm going to do that is because now if I make just a single box, watch what happens. It automatically will label that box for me as A1. And notice I'm still articulating this way. So if I just want to change that back, I just click on it, right like that. And then I can say, okay, I want my text. And let's pick a different word. Let's go with left. Okay. The point being, it's very, very easy to use. It's very intuitive. And the idea that you can manage these images from where you stand, you can do your annotations here, you can send them to the LIS, you can send them to the server, or both, one or the other or both, and we can bring pictures in. And as we move through a case, as I said earlier, you're not going to lose anything because we're storing as we go. You will always have an original, so you can always go back, and you can always go back and redo annotations and save the ones that you've already done. Lots of choices behind the scenes as it relates to how you want to manage your images. All of that is standard within PathSuite, and it applies to grossing and microscopy. The next thing I'm going to show you is telepathology. And if you notice, if I go back to live mode, I have this button right here is my quick connect button to call my pathologist. I'm going to be the PA, and I'm going to call my pathologist, and I'm going to ask him to show me where he would like me to dissect this specimen.